Experiencing betrayal is one of the most heartbreaking and yet eye-opening experiences that I think a human can walk through. So, my name's Heather, and I talk a lot about should I stay or should I go after betrayal. I do have a staying story, and hear me when I say I know that there are a million and one, and probably more than that, reasons to vacate a relationship, partnership, marriage, or friendship after betrayal. I am not here to advocate for anybody staying in an emotional, physical, mental, sexual, abusive relationship. I am not advocating for people to stay in a relationship with a serial cheater. And more than any of that, I'm not here to tell you that whatever you decide is wrong, because whatever you decide is ultimately going to be what is best for you and what is right for you. It seems like such a cut and dry answer, right? So immediately after a betrayal is brought to light, one of the first questions that I ask myself is, oh my God, should I stay or should I go? This happened super early on in my marriage. We are now married 18 years, but at the time, we were very young in marriage, had a baby at home. I had just gained 2 new stepkids, and we were just literally the weekend I found out having to move into a basement apartment with my mother-in-law due to the financial breakdown of 2008. So it was quite a time. And if you have just found out that you have been betrayed or that your partner has cheated, I just first and foremost want to say I am so sorry, because the absolute heartbreak, your world literally turning on its axis, a feeling of safety replaced by complete chaos and no sense or semblance of safety at all, is harrowing, and it's scary, and it's sad, and it's heart-shattering. And I don't know about you, but for me, one of the things that I set out to do almost immediately was to take on the role of ensuring that I would never, ever, 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 ever in my life again feel the way that I felt in those initial moments. And of course, there's no guarantee of that, right? Like, I cannot control outcomes. I cannot manipulate this world and the people in it to conform in such a way that I would never be hurt again. But I'm just here to say that in that huge, expansive sadness and soul crushing that is inhabiting every orbit of your world is powerful. And immediately I wanted to go into, oh my God, what decision do I make from this point? Like, should I stay or should I go? And what I have discovered through my own personal story is that's not the first question to ask, even though it seems like it. And it is the first question that the outside world is pretty much going to ask of you and demand of you. And most of them, and honestly, probably rightfully so, most of them are going to advocate for you to go. The first question to truly be examined is not, should I stay or should I go? It is, can I stay in this relationship, this friendship, this marriage, this partnership? Can I stay in this relationship in its present state as it sits right now and be okay? and be at peace? And the answer to that is always going to be no. So there will come a time to where you will have a sit down with your partner, and that's when it's a discovery time. And that is when things are determined, such as, number one, are they remorseful? Or are they just sorry they got caught? Are they holding space for you and the entire roller coaster of emotions that you are experiencing? Or are they minimizing? Are they deflecting? Or are they showing any amount of sincerity and willingness to rectify the fracture that they caused in the relationship? And that's the thing, is I wanted to find all of the things that I thought was wrong with me. And I think that it's really easy and also psychologically detrimental to immediately assuming that two selfish choices of other people had anything to do with me at all. It didn't. It wasn't because I'm not good enough. It wasn't because I'm not pretty enough. It wasn't because I wasn't sexual enough. It wasn't because of any of those things. It had truly nothing to do with me. It's easy to fall into self-blame, and it's hard to see the forest through the trees whenever you are met with this in your life, because I wanted to grasp at anything to possibly make sense of this new reality that I had entered. And some things just aren't meant to make sense, and they're not going to make sense in the first 30, 60, 90 days. For me, and I'm grateful, and I am eternally grateful that this is my story. I knew that making a decision at the point of crisis was not going to be the next right thing for me. And the reason for that is I have learned through being sober for multiple years that to act on a decision in the crux of the problem, I may then second guess myself later. So I have been given the gift and the ability to pause, even though pausing is the last thing that I wanted to do at that time. Now, there are instances that I can talk to you about of how I went and rallied my people, and then how I tried to rally his people and even her people against them. And I do not recommend that. So anybody that is your partner's family, longtime friends, co-workers, anybody that is connected to the significant other or to the person that has caused the harm, their stance on it is going to be one of quick to forgive, and also one of defending their loved one. And while that really, really, really hurts in the moment, and it feels wrong, and it feels unfair, and it feels cheap, the truth is that particular set of people, they're supposed to do that. They are. And your people are supposed to envelope you with love, care, support, non-judgment, and patience. And yes, it is very likely that your people are going to have a strong opinion about leaving immediately. And that is 1,000% understandable. They love you. They do not want to see you hurt. They are they are angry themselves at the harm and the injustice, and they just want you to be okay. So there is going to be chatter, and as the news of the betrayal travels, there will be so much external chatter and opinions that it will be hard to get quiet and listen to your own inner voice. I'm a firm believer that everything that we need to know ever always lives inside of us, and it is there. And I don't know about you, but I can allow external forces to cover up what I know to be true for me. And so there are so many variables and there are so many dynamics, and no two stories are exactly the same. I can tell you that in my personal story, we had to go through several years of therapy, both individual and couples. There was a lot of growth and some setbacks along the way, towards healing and basically redesigning our whole life and our whole marriage to be anew. And I can tell you that today, the relationship that my husband and I have is one that is admirable, is one that is indicative of what can happen when two humans truly change and have an internal shift. My marriage is proof of hard work, scary work that is easily pushed under the rug and not done because it's so deep. My marriage is a testament to allowing spirituality to be number one in our lives. And I'm not speaking dogmatic, and I'm not speaking from any particular segment of religion or point of view. I believe I mentioned that I am in long-term recovery, and so is my husband. And an important part of our own personal recovery is having a personal relationship with a higher power. And so by each of us inviting in our higher powers into the relationship, helped a great deal. There were many things that reshaped our life as we knew it, and our marriage as we knew it. I can tell you that the first 30, 60, 90 days are truly about surviving and getting to the next day. I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. And I also made a lot of good decisions. And what worked for me may not work for you. But in order to feel safe, I needed to have access to passwords and phones and emails and, that whole side of it. And then there came a time much later to where I had to step back from that. I had to put away my detective hat. I'm not an FBI agent as much as I sometimes like to think that I am. There came a time to where I had to let go of some of those activities and those behaviors and just begin to trust what I was being shown. But that's not in the beginning. The first 30, 60, 90 days are about, honestly, just surviving, self-care, halting, HALT is a popular acronym in recovery rooms, and it sounds so simple and it sounds so cliche, and it is honestly one of the most powerful things that I have learned in my 25 years of recovery, and that's hungry, angry, lonely, tired. So I needed to make a conscious effort to make sure that those things were in check in those early days of complete shock and sadness, because while those things did not heal me and did not take away the sadness, they were a buffer between me and probably actual psychosis, to be quite honest. I needed to connect with friends that love me no matter what. Then we're not going to judge me for not having a decision yet. Then we're not going to judge me for staying, because here's the thing is I always knew that I was going to stay. I always knew that the man that I married, that underneath those selfish actions and those decisions was truly a good man. And I think that we know that about people. I think that we can sense spirit and intent. And I always knew that we were meant to be together, that we were meant to walk through this life hand in hand, and that we were meant to be on this adventure, as crazy and as tragic and as beautiful as it has been, clear up until this very moment that I sit here. I always knew that. It was an inner knowing. It was not up here, which can go back and forth between all kinds of stuff. It was something that lived here. Now, that said, while that is very much true, if my partner had not been willing to do his own work and participate in the work that we needed to do together, and was not willing to be honest and did not sincerely want to change, that inner knowing still may have been correct to a sense, but it would not have been able to come to fruition if the other person was not willing to make necessary changes. So it does take two, and one of the most unfair and unfortunate things about being on the receiving end of betrayal is you have work to do too. And that freaking sucks, because you didn't cause it, you can't control it. But whether you stay or whether you go, you have to grieve. And grieving is work. Grieving is hard work. You're going to feel like you are walking through life in an ocean full of water with a weighted vest and ankle weights for quite a while. Grief is hard work. Whether you stay or whether you go, there's grief. Whether you stay or whether you go, there are elements of forgiveness that must come into play. Now, if you're like me and you're in recovery, forgiveness of all three, meaning myself, my partner, and her, was necessary for me. That may not be true for you. There will still be an element of forgiveness, even if it is just of yourself. And forgiveness is also work. So there's work to do. And much later, I had to be willing to look at things about myself that were less than desirable. And I don't mean sexual or aesthetically or anything like that. I mean hardwired, ingrained behaviors, actions, and defects that I displayed in not only my marriage, but in all of my relationships. Again, you will never hear me say that being cheated on is your fault or that you had anything to do with it, because those things are not true. However, for me, I had to come to grips with that I am, to a degree, responsible for the state of my relationships. And I was cold. I was dismissive. I was a drama addict. I was entitled. I was selfish. I did not know how to appropriately show affection. I was closed off sexually due to trauma from years past that I successfully ignored until I could ignore no longer. And I did not make a conscious and continual effort to connect with my husband, not mentally, emotionally, verbally, spiritually, any of that. I primarily lived my life so caught up in my head that I just didn't put forth the effort that it takes to be in a true partnership with another person. Did that cause him to go out and sleep with another woman? No. Did it create friction? Yes. Did it create questions in his head if I really wanted to be in the marriage? Did it create questions in his head? Is she even attracted to me? Did it create a feeling of disregard for him? Yes, it absolutely did. One of the biggest lessons that I have learned, that the ability to become vulnerable and allow vulnerability, and then also give that grace to the person that is in front of you, whoever is in front of you, allow them the same grace. And in doing so, I learned to look at my husband as a human being, flawed, sick in some regards, a human being, a child of God, if you will. And instead of looking at him as somebody who was put on earth to take care of me, to make me happy, to serve me, because I looked at him in those ways, I was able to take those glasses off and put on a new lens. And I was able to sit with him also in the same non-judgmental space that I craved from him. There came a point through much work, self-reflection, therapy, that was able to be a two-way street. And the best relationships that I have today, not just including with my husband, but the best friendships that I have in my life today, are the ones to where the hard and scary conversations are had. We speak our truth even when our voice shakes. And we still love each other after. We do not take everything that the person in front of us says personally. We leave our egos at the door, and we allow the art and the beauty of true vulnerability to come in. I was able to eventually shed all of my masks that I had, born from fear, and show myself completely naked. And I don't mean without clothes. I mean my soul. And I was able to offer that in such a way that it was held. And I was able to offer that in such a way that it was then returned to me. And that is priceless. So, again, I can't tell anybody what to do. Mine is a staying story. There's a lot more to the story. I talk a lot more about it. There is some very crazy and unfortunate things that have taken place in the last 18 years, particularly with her. I wish that she would die. at the time. I truly wished that she would die. And how typical is that, right? Of it's easier to place all the rage at the feet of the other person rather than at the head of the man who I was still letting sleep in our bed, right? I can remember truly wanting her to die. Would not have cared if she died. Fast forward after several years, a lot of work had been done. I did a radical forgiveness worksheet on her, and I will never forget how at the end when you burn that worksheet and how it burned into the most beautiful yet tarnished rose I had ever seen. And I was just again reminded that the God of my understanding turns beauty from ashes all the time, every time. Skip forward a couple more years and I was able to share a meal with this person. I was able to do a spiritual ceremony with this person. And fast forward a couple more years later, she stepped in front of an Amtrak and ended it all. And while that has nothing to do with me or my story or my original desire for this woman to die, just remember what you think and what you do in those initial days. Just remember that they can't be taken back. I remember not wanting to kill myself, but like randomly, like revving my car dramatically and like wanting to, like, not with the baby in the car, but like revving it dramatically and driving it recklessly and thinking how easy it would be to just drive off an embankment or drive off a bridge, and those are temporary. Sorry. This is a temporary problem, even if it feels permanent. Those other things, those are permanent. Please do not make a permanent decision based on a temporary problem. Please, if you have thoughts of harming yourself or others, please get help. Please reach out and please get help. Nothing, absolutely nothing is worth your presence no longer being available to those that love and need you. And there are still people that love and need you. So that is one thing that happened through the course of so our healing journey was from that point forward for about 7 or 8 years until we truly came together as a different unit. I wrote a book about it. I talk more about it. I give the whole story. I give my sobriety story. My name's Heather. I just created this YouTube channel. I am, my aim here is to be a soft place to land. I talk about healing from betrayal, emotional sobriety, people pleasing, boundaries, self-love journey, living authentically, all kind of things like that. So if that's your vibe, hit the subscribe button. I think that's what it is on YouTube. And thank you for holding this space with me and for hanging out with me.